So the agenda for today, let me just move forward here. The agenda for today is we're gonna really dive deep into the cloud security challenges, like the top questions that we get from the customers when we engage with them. Either they are starting their cloud journey or even in the middle of the journey. We will dive deep into Microsoft Defender for Cloud, like the how to manage your security posture, how to improve the security posture, how would you manage the vulnerabilities, investigate the alerts, and all of this cool stuff that Defender for Cloud really provide you. But we're also gonna take a break in the middle. Before actually talk about Azure Arc and how would you extend your on-premises infrastructure to Defender for Cloud and Azure in general. So we will see what is Azure Arc and how it works. And again, the live demo is gonna be the end, but actually I'm gonna be like doing demo between. So this is just a formal agenda, and then we're gonna leave some time for the Q&A to dive deep into your questions as well. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Again, like myself, Nikhil, and also Anjali here are taking care of the chat. Or raise your hands. Like Nikhil will be always taking care of that. Yeah. With that, let's get started. So in today's world, like one of the biggest challenges is that we are having here is the expanding digital state. So basically, we are no longer like exist on premises. We have right now the hybrid cloud. So you could have some data on-prem, you have some data on the cloud. You could also be using multi-cloud, like AWS and Azure or GCP and so on. There is a lot of devices connected to your infrastructure. So people are no longer working from the office. Some people would like to work from their tablets, from their mobile devices. Other people are working from home, from the office. Like, we have fridges connected to the, the environment, cars connected to the cloud environment, and many more, like, fridges and elevators and so on. So it became very difficult, to actually secure all of those environment. And one of the top questions that we get from the customers actually is the security. How would I protect all of this? It's either they have a lot of tools, they're buying a lot of tools for their on-premises infrastructure, and it could be Azure, it could be also another cloud provider. They need to invest in a lot of tools. Their cybersecurity team are struggling with many tools. Some of it are also legacy, so they're not AI and machine learning powered. So this has also becomes more complicated and expensive as well. Investing in a lot of trainings, or training the staff, the cybersecurity team to learn more than one tool to investigate the noisy alerts and all of this. And as you can see from this studies that you in front of you is that whenever you are migrating to the cloud or even starting the cloud journey, or you are in the cloud already, you always have a concern about the security. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the security best practice or not? One of the biggest stories actually I had when I was at AWS and the cloud wasn't actually mature enough is that a lot of customers just migrate a couple of VMs and then they find it working, then they move everything. And they think that the cloud provider actually is taking care of the security, or as you may or may not, it's a shared responsibility model, which means is that depends on the service type that you're going to be using. You actually need to take care of some certain security responsibility plus other responsibility like backup and disaster recovery and stuff like that. So what happens is that they open the management port to the world, and then they get attacked either by a DDoS or ransomware or whatever. So they think that this is actually going to be secured by default. And then when we engage with them, we start to educate them about the permissions that they should provide on their accounts, all of this kind of stuff, the network security group hardening and so on. So this is actually where it made a lot of or a big complexity. So this is actually where Microsoft Defender for Cloud is really coming very helpful tool to help you with this. So basically, Defender for Cloud is a a cloud security posture management, like this is the formal definition, or CSPM, and a cloud workload protection. So the job of this tool is to really find the weak spots in your configuration on your environment, and then start to give you kind of secure score or representation of that security best practice. Are you really following the security best practice or not? If you have any vulnerability, you're going to be proactive to block it before it happens. So if you left like a public storage account that it's not meant to be public, you will see that it will be flagged as a security risk. But we also going to give you kind of secure score where you're going to take a look, and the more you don't follow the security best practice, the more we're going to reduce the secure score, and we will be seeing this on the Azure portal as well. One of the great things is that if you would like to achieve compliance, so manage your compliance as well, like this is your internal auditor. So if you want like to achieve HIPAA, GDPR, or whatever security compliance standards that you want to follow, you actually can also leverage Microsoft Defender for Cloud to do that. It will actually tell you, okay, to be compliant with HIPAA, you need to install firewall, or maybe apply multi-factor authentication, or remove the high privilege access for certain accounts, and so on. So there are we will be seeing this. You can generate reports from there. You can also share it with your customer that I'm compliant with this. So it's very good auditor as well, and a very good tool that if you are starting with the cloud, actually it's gonna guide you with a lot of security best practice. This guy is also powered by AI and machine learning, so you will leverage the Microsoft cybersecurity database that not only he's not like working alone, but it's working with other Microsoft security solutions, whether it's Defender for Endpoint or like Microsoft PureView or the other security solutions that we provide. So you're gonna really leverage the rich signals or the rich database that it's coming from Microsoft cybersecurity data. You're gonna be provided with a tools that you can which will help you investigate the security vulnerabilities and alerts and so on. But out of the box, you can respond and automate this your actions actually. So you will have tools to investigate the attack, to see the details about the attack and everything, and then you will have tools to automate as well, whether it's logic apps, security logic apps, or Microsoft Sentinel, or even you can integrate with ServiceNow to open a ticket and then assign it to a specific team and go ahead and investigate that. So it's really, really powerful tool. The other things is that this product was rebranded to actually 4 years ago when it was released, it was called Azure Security Center. And when you see Microsoft behind that, with the naming, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, that's mean it became unified. It's not only for Azure, but it's also for AWS, Google Cloud, and your on-premises infrastructure. So it's really one tool, single pane of glass. You don't really need to invest in many tools, and your cybersecurity team switch from one tool to the other while they are investigating. You can actually rely on this one. So it's built into Azure. You don't need to really manage the infrastructure of your cybersecurity. So this is like a SaaSified security solution. It's just few clicks and then it will be enabled. Some of it are agentless. It depends on the type of the service. And some of it we use the hybrid model where we push an agent and also agentless as well. So we get that data from the cloud APIs as well. Again, it's very simple, cross multi-cloud, powered by AI to reduce also the false positives. So one of the one of the biggest challenges with the actual cybersecurity team is that they get a lot of noisy alerts and it end up in the dashboard. They're not investigating it. So we're trying to make it as simple as possible, but also this alerts, if it's common across many different resources, we will connect all of those resources into that alert so that you don't see this a lot. So you will see one alert affecting many unhealthy resources, whether it's AWS, GCP, or Azure, or even your on-premises infrastructure. All right, the result is you're confident. Again, one of the biggest challenges is that block innovation and like your speed or your agility or all of this kind of stuff is cybersecurity. So all the time you want to be confident whether you're like writing code in GitHub and or like whatever the like your repository solution, whether you're running this a container like a container image, or you want like to scan a container image, or even running containers or running on an AKS or JKS or whatever, then you still like you're gonna be covered by Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So it's really faster deployments. You have a centralized visibility. You will be aware, like actually we could ask you, are you aware if you have an attack or not? So you will have that kind of like bird eye view where you are actually aware of what's happening in the environment. If there is a pre-attack, you will be able to see it and so on. But this is also powered by AI. So you can leverage the signals and all of this cool stuff. And again, automation to make it simple for the cybersecurity team to just spend their time as well on investigating the attack rather than just also like manually doing these actions and so on. Any questions so far? Right. Okay, let's take a look at the Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So if it's your first time coming to Microsoft Defender for Cloud, like you will see here, I am on the Azure portal. Either you will see it on the left side. Is it visible for everyone? I just want to make sure that it's not small. Are you able to see my screen very well? Yeah, okay, perfect. So if you take a look here, this is the Azure portal. So either you're going to search for Microsoft Defender for Cloud here from the recent services, or you can like like put it here as a favorite service to go for, or even you can find it from the all services. So, and then you will see here under the security portfolio, you can see the threat detection and protection. So Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which is the topic for today. And then if it's your first time coming here, you will see that there is a getting started section where if it's not enabled at all, so it will flag whether you're using management group or even from a subscription level, it will tell you that this is not enabled, you need to enable it. And as you can see, it offers a 30 days trial, so you're not going to pay anything from the beginning. So if you feel like, okay, I want to test that one to see the like like if it's strong or weak, so you can actually test that out. And even if you're paying for that product later on, you could still disable it if you don't like it. So you're not buying anything because this is a cloud service. As any other cloud, you're paying for what you use. So this guy is actually set on top of Log Analytics Workspace, and Log Analytics Workspace is a bucket for log collection. So you link it to a specific Log Analytics Workspace, and then you click on Upgrade, and then it will work. Okay, that's what it looks like. Then you will see something like this. You will see an overview tab here. We give you kind of secure score. This is a security posture across all of your environment, whether it's on-prem, multi-cloud, and so on. You will see this is how many Azure subscriptions are onboarded, how many AWS accounts have been onboarded, GCP, and so on. And then you will see a secure score. This is am I following the security best practice or not? So this is not good. But again, this is just showing you that I'm not following the security best practice. And this is the secure score representation. It will also show the active recommendations from Microsoft Defender for Cloud, also your security regularity and compliance, like according to your security configuration, this is the standards that you're achieving actually. So it will show you also a goal. It will show you also the discovered resources that it's not monitored or it's not enabled by Defender for Cloud. You will see it, and the workload protections. So the other integrations, like whether it is adaptive application controller, whether it's Defender for Endpoint and so on. So you will see also some dashboards from here. If you have got kind of active attack path, you will see it here, alerts. So this is kind of overview showing you what's going on. You can go to any tab that you're seeing on the left here, either from the overview directly, or even you can click on the security posture. When you click on the security posture, you will see here that it's showing AWS is, Azure is 57%, AWS is 34%, and GCP is 43%. And as you can see here, I'm onboarding all of my technologies. So whether it's GitLab or GitLab or GitHub or Azure DevOps, so you will be also able to scan your code as well. So this is what's gonna show me in terms of security score. And if I would like to increase or decrease that security score, so of course, the more you deploy, the more you're gonna decrease the security in general, because if you're not following the best practice, then it's gonna decrease the secure score. So it's a very live environment. And also, if you're not installing updates, for example, on your operating system, that's also a security risk. And then we will reduce your secure score as well. But then the way to manage this is by going or clicking on the recommendations here. And then from the recommendations section, you will be actually able to see, okay, this is AWS, this is GCP, this is GitHub, and so on. This is, sorry for the limited permissions. But you can actually even hide, let's say GCP, I want to look only for Azure and AWS. And as you can see here from the filter is environment equal Azure and AWS. And then you would really see, okay, there is kind of recommendations here of, hey, enable multi-factor authentication. So it see that there are kind of privileged accounts that you have in the environment that they are actually no MFA enabled. And then if you click on this, you can actually view what's going on here. So it will give you kind of explanation what is MFA and how it works, what is the severity of this, and if you apply the MFA, so the refresh interval, it's gonna be up to 12 hours, so till we rescan again, and then flag it as it's remediated, so you will be good. So you will see here, this is a description. So even if you don't understand anything about cybersecurity, you will actually learn from there. And then you have the remediation steps. So this is the remediation steps. And then who are the affected resources. Once you remediate the resources, it will move to the healthy resources as well. I saw Harry raised his hand.
Yes, I think Harry raised his hand. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a quick question around the refresh of the secure score. Is there, I know it's just 12 hours. Is there any way to do this manually?
At the moment, it depends on how do we reach out to that that resource, because this is also AWS and others. So if it's in Azure directly, it's gonna be much quicker. But there is no kind of manual way where you could kick off that. You could do exemption, but again, this is not like the sufficient way. But every resource, it will have a different refresh interval. So you will see some of it takes 24 hours, some of it takes 3 hours, some of it takes 30 minutes, some of it is within 20 minutes. So it really depends on the resource itself. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. Any other questions? So as you can see here, it's also take a look at the network security groups, whether they are coming from Amazon EC2 or coming from AWS. Again, if I enable GCP, I will see more security recommendations. If you are, for example, writing passwords in your code, you will also see it from your GitHub, if you're enabling this, this view as well. So it will give you kind of a lot of vulnerabilities. And once you remediate this, you will see here that the potential secure increase is 5%, 7%, and so on. So the more you follow this, the more the secure score is going to be increased across all of your infrastructure. Regularity and compliance that we spoke about. So this is where you can manage your regularity standards, and you can add more or even customize the regularity compliance if it's not enough. So again, there are kind of pre-built regularity and compliance from Microsoft, but also you could add your your compliance, your own compliance, or your own your own configuration. You can actually bring it to Azure and let it be scanned from your from Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and it will appear here as a custom ones. But you will see here, if you would like to be compliant with Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark or HIPAA and so on, you have to go and then enable those ones. Some of it are enabled by design, and some of it you need to spend more money money, such as MFA, such as firewall and so on. But you will see here, we will give you exactly the configuration management, what you're going to do from configuration management, what you're going to do from incident management, and so on. Okay, and then once you are doing this, you can actually click on the reports here, and then this report. Sorry, this is just to learn about the reports. Sometimes they change things, but you can download. Yeah, you can download the report. Whether you want to download, which report you would like to share it with your manager, and then you can download it by a PDF or something, and then you can download that one and then send it to your manager or your customer and so on. So it's a very nice, report where you can actually take a look, and you don't really need to give access to your manager for this. You can just share the compliance. So it's very good in terms of of internal auditor and giving you kind of recommendation, what is the achieved and what's not achieved across EC2, Amazon S3, AWS RDS, and so on. Okay. Yeah. Let's go back to the presentation. Moving forward, so detect your threats and protect your workloads. So first of all, actually, this slide is a little bit outdated, but this is the coverage in general, what we cover from Defender for Cloud perspective, whether it's a code in your repository or even from application level like VMs, whether they are Amazon EC2 or Amazon EC2 or Azure VMs or Google Compute, whether it's an AKS environment, whether it's an unmanaged AKS on your on-premises infrastructure, or even Azure or AWS. Database side, we also cover variety of databases and storage accounts, plus Amazon S3 bucket and Google storage as well. For Amazon also, we recently announced in Ignite that we also cover RDS. So the managed services from AWS as well is actually brought into the solution. So and the more we the more years goes on, the more that we're gonna also expand the capability of that product. But if you see this 4 years ago, you wouldn't see all of this kind of support. One of the great things is, as I mentioned, is it got this is where we're gonna see in the demo threat detection feature. So you will see a prioritized alerts, we give you kind of severity. You will be able to investigate the alert. You will be able to take a look at the which stage is the alert in. So it's actually based on the MITRE attack framework mapping. And if you are aware of the cybersecurity or the MITRE attack framework mapping, you will see that, okay, we take a look at the correlation, the IP address, where it's coming from, all of this, the entity, so it's actually based on that. Again, you will rely on the AI and machine learning. And so that's mean that you will leverage the global, cybersecurity database from Microsoft. And also, vulnerability management. So you will be proactive to block any vulnerabilities before it happens. So we will flag it as a security risk. We're going to give it a severity to you, which is important and which is not important. And as you've seen from the dashboard, that we will relate all of the resources to that vulnerability, and then you could go and remediate directly. And again, alerts, prioritized alerts, all of this are actually AI things. So this is where the magic comes from, so that we don't make it noisy to you, and as simple as possible. Move on. This is the interface and what it looks like. We will see this on the Azure portal, but the security alerts, it's going to look like this. So it's going to be, let me just open the pointer. You will have the severity, the is it active, dismissed, or and so on. And then when it happens, we give you kind of explanation. So if you don't have a knowledge about cybersecurity as well, so we will tell you, okay, what is it, this attack, what type of this attack, and we give you kind of information where it's coming from, which stage. And as you can see here, this is the MITRE attack tactics. So are you in pre-attacked, or you already attacked, and so on. So you will see at which stage actually is happening. And then out of the box, you get information. Once you understood the alert, once you understood the attack, where it's coming from, then you're going to move to the take action section. We will see this from the Azure portal. Then you also have that kind of workload protection. So workload protection is basically where we integrate with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is also a leading ADR now. So for antivirus and all of this kind of stuff. We also have kind of adaptive application control, just-in-time access. I will explain this later on, but this is just as a high-level view. So this is your workload protection tab where you can enable or disable it as well. So you will be able to integrate with SIM solution, whether it's first-party solution like SIM, like Microsoft Sentinel, or even third-party like Splunk or whatever the third-party solution that you are managing the other or managing the SecOps part from. We will continuously scanning. Actually, three months ago from Ignite, it used to be like actually every 7 days or something. Now it became daily scanning on across all of your resources. Some of it we improved the we used also Qualys for vulnerability management, but now also Microsoft Defender itself, it has like its native capability where it's now scan the the vulnerabilities directly or hybrid. So we use both as well for the vulnerability management and scanning. All right, let's take a look at a demo before we go. Any questions so far? How are you feeling? You can or unmute. Like, is it is it good, bad?
I'm finding it really useful. Yeah, we've enabled Defender for Cloud in our environment, and we're protecting Azure servers and on-prem with connected Arc servers. So it's just useful just to have some of this explained, to be honest.
Thank you. All right. Let's go back to the Azure portal. Okay, I'm in the Azure portal. So I'm in the Defender for Cloud. Again, we cleared out the recommendation, the overview section. Again, if you would like to investigate the alerts, you can actually click directly from here, or even you can just click on the alerts tab. So the alerts tab here, this is where the magic come from. Is basically if you have a lot of attacks, as you can see in my environment, and even you can generate your own sample alerts. Like if in your demo environment, if you would like to do a demo for another customer or for your manager or whatever, you can actually generate sample alerts, and then it will automatically generate that for you. Or even you can just connect it and then do kind of bad, like maybe sign in from a different country, and then it will also show it to you here, that there is a kind of suspicious login. If because again, it also look at the Azure Active Directory, look at the other cybersecurity tools, and then is this guy actually used to log in from like Egypt, for example, or log from the US if you are based on UK. If not, then it's going to be like a security risk, and we will also notify you that there is unusual sign-in activity. And usually it also gets it from the sign-in logs from the Azure Active Directory that also learns about your sign-in behaviors as well. So it's not really one spot or tied to a specific resource, but it also check the other around this as well. So as you can see here, this is kind of any example. Let's say like there is an alert for a brute force attack for Microsoft SQL Server. You will see the severity. So actually, if we minimize this, you will see the severity. All of this are high. You can also filter. So you can actually, I want to see only the high severity. I want to see the medium and whatever, and then we will just customize that for you. You will see here different alert samples, so across AKS, across different subscriptions and so on, and you can move here from next from those pages. Then once you open this, you will understand more about the attack. So as you can see here, the MITRE attack framework is telling me it's pre-attack, so I can actually click on view full details, and then the analyst or the cybersecurity guy is gonna start to understand more about, okay, what's happening. So it will explain what is the brute force attack, what are the resources actually affected, and then where it's actually detected from. If it's detected by Qualys, for example, then you will see it's Qualys. If it's Microsoft, then it's going to be Microsoft endpoint. So you will see where is the attack is coming from, like, you know, in which virtual machine, and so on, and then the IP address, like, you know, everything, like, you know, about the attack. Then once you understood, like, you know, the like what's happening here, you can either dismiss this one if it's not important, or if it's a testing one. So you can actually go here and then click on dismiss or resolved, or maybe I'm in progress. So like it depends on how do you want to, like somebody is really looking at this. And then you, out of the box, you can click on take action. So when you take action here, you will see the security recommendations that we saw in the recommendation section, but also we're going to give you kind of what kind of things that you should do, like, you know, whether it's blocking the, like, you know, whether it's resetting the password, or like, you know, blocking the network security group of that VM, and so on. So you will see an active recommendation, or an active 20 recommendations related to that. So you can actually click directly here and then follow that recommendations related to that resource. So you'll see Microsoft Defender for endpoint should be enabled for Azure SQL Server. Like, you know, that also SQL Server should have an Active Directory administrator provision instead of using the native, like, you know, login from SQL Server and so on. So you will see this. You could assign it to the database team. You can integrate with, right now is ServiceNow or just Microsoft Defender for Cloud. So if you go here in the environmental settings, down here, this is where you can add the third parties. Okay, so this is your third parties like Amazon, Google Cloud, and so on. So we give you the steps, like, you know, configure your IAM role, what you should do, and so on. If you would like to integrate with ServiceNow, for example, then you will just click on ServiceNow integration here, and then you could bring your own ServiceNow into the picture. So add, like, you know, the URL of ServiceNow, blah, 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 and then you can actually create a ticket. So you select the scope. Again, I don't have permission to manage this, but you select the scope, which subscriptions and you would like to integrate with ServiceNow, and then you could select like either Defender for Cloud or ServiceNow. Okay. Going back here to the attack, any questions first of all? Perfect. One of the great feature that was announced also in Ignite is the attack path analysis. This is very, very nice. So let's say you don't really understand the impact of opening an RDP port. So you can actually hover over in any of these. So it's telling you here it's an internet exposed Azure VM, or maybe an Amazon EC2. Like we can take a look here. It's an Amazon EC2 that is exposed to the internet. So what is the potential risk here? Basically, we will tell you exactly the path. So here is the VM that got this public IP. So as you can see, this is the VM that got a public IP. This is the network interface. And then this is the Amazon EC2 instance that contains or connects to Amazon RDS. So if there is a compromise, if this virtual machine is actually compromised, it will impact that resource as well. So you will have the attack path, and like, you know, you will be able to investigate exactly what's happening. And then you will see also which Amazon resource, and again, which stage is it. And then you could click on the remediations here. So from the remediations, we're gonna give you kind of apply security best practice hardening. So like, you know, harden your network security group on AWS, or even you can enable the like the let me just sometimes I forget workload protection. Just let me scroll down. Yeah, you can enable the adaptive network hardening here. So or just-in-time access. So just-in-time access basically is like you could enable the management ports or the inbound ports for a specific time, then you take that back again. So I want to open it for 2 hours. So this is because like the guys could write like we will do this job or test job or whatever. Then once after 2 hours, it will be automatically like disabled, so that you block any attack. So this is how you're going to be proactive and like, you know, you actually be like go forward before the attack could happen, and block all of your vulnerabilities as well. Inventory section. So the inventory section here is basically, this is where the resources that is discovered, but maybe some certain agents are not installed. Whether it's AMA, like the log analytics agent is not pushed over there, or whether it's Defender for Endpoint and so on. So we will show you exactly who is healthy, who is unhealthy, and then you could remediate that as well. Okay. One thing I forgot just to show you is also like, let's say, go back to whether it's recommendations, whether it's security alerts, and so on. Like, just let's wait to load. Let's say apply system updates. Okay. And system updates is basically like, if you have Windows or Linux machine that let's say you didn't install the update, we will tell you this. If you installed but you forgot to restart, we will tell you also, hey, you need to restart those machines. It's installed, but you need to restart. One of the things that it's very cool is that either you will see unhealthy resources. As you can see here, this is coming from on-prem, that I have machines that it's actually Microsoft Monitoring Agent is not installed on it. So you can out of the box just select them and then click on fix if it's available, if it's like if it can order the Azure Resource Manager control plane to automatically does that, or even you can trigger a security logic app. So from the community, there are pre-built security logic apps, or even you can build your own logic and then go ahead and install that automatically. So I would recommend that you go first, do that manually to understand the impact. Once you understand the impact, then you could actually build the automation piece, and then you could trigger that logic app, communicate to an Azure automation or whatever that you would like to, and then it will the automation workflow, it will kick off, and then it will automatically remediate that for you. Again, I don't have permissions, but you should see a lot of logic apps here. And again, this is the remediation steps. If you don't know how to do it, we also going to give you guidance. How would you remediate and make this resource healthy as well? Okay. Any questions? Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Protect your VMs. So as you can see here, like once you move your VM from on-prem to the cloud, it's different. Now it's in the control plane, it has network security groups, storage, like, you need to do encryption and so on. So one of the great features that you will also get, that we provide an OS level protection with the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So if you are actually using this before, if you enabled Microsoft Defender for Cloud, you will get the Defender for Endpoint for free. So you don't need to pay for both. So if you enable it from here, then we give you part of the plan, like, the license as well. And we give you the dashboard for investigation. So either you're going to investigate from Defender for Cloud, but if you would like to dive deep more, then you can actually go to the Defender for Endpoint dashboard and then start to understand about what's happening, whether it's a malware or a ransomware or whatever that is blocked. You can see it from the Defender for Endpoint. Again, this is available for all cloud providers, including the on-premises as well. So this is what it looks like, the endpoint, and we get signals. So the cool thing about this endpoint is also, again, like, all of the processes happening from the cloud. It's not actually from this guy. So we just instruct this guy, and this guy just work behind the scene to do the work. But the actual work is happening, or the infrastructure is happening on the cloud as well. And this guy is really like, strong in terms of aware of like the fileless attack as well, the attacks that happens on the memory. So it's also going to be cool. It got kind of DLP features. If you would like to block certain applications to be installed on the operating system, it's also going to help you to do that as well from Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Again, this is the dashboard where it looks like. So Windows Defender Security Center, this is where you want to gain more insight about the client or the endpoint itself, whether it's Windows or Linux, and it's coming from any environment, not only Azure. So again, you would be able to investigate from there, or continue the investigation from there. Yeah, and I forgot. From the slide here, you will have a 6 month of data that we keep as well, like, so that you could go back to the protection history and take a look of what's going on the like, on that side as well. One of the great things is adaptive application control. This is basically a like an AI feature of Defender for Cloud, where once you enable it on the VMs, it will understand or it will start to take a look at what is the average applications do you have or installed on the VM, and then it will learn what is approved and what is not approved. Let's say Microsoft products approved, Google products, and so on, or specific products. It would really understand what's going on. If somebody's trying to install something that it's not in the approved list, so either you have two actions. You could get a notification where this is an approved application, or you can actually prevent it as well, and then it will integrate with Defender for Endpoint to block that for you. So it's very cool, and you can also not only rely on machine learning, but you also can add the whitelist or what is the allowed application and what is not allowed. So then it will automatically work on that as well. Okay. Any questions? We're gonna take a break. Don't worry. We're coming soon. One of the things is that you will be able to assess your VMs, and like same as you have seen, like with any Azure resource, you can do that across all of the cloud providers, across all of your on-premises infrastructure. So you can assess the vulnerabilities if there are kind of OS hardening, specific TLS you would like to apply, all of this kind of stuff. You're actually going to see it from the vulnerability section, and then we will tell you exactly same interface. So whether it's Azure SQL, whether it's AWS, whether it's GCP, it's one tool that you will learn, and then the interface will not change. So we will tell you exactly the findings, like maybe OS updates that you forgot to install, the security updates, and then we will tell you, okay, hey, this is this is not installed, so you need to install that, and then we will increase your secure score. Again, as I mentioned, it's hybrid model. So whether you can choose between Qualys or Microsoft Threat and Vulnerability Management, the native one. So it's totally up to you. And even you can bring your own vulnerability as well solution. So you can actually edit this into the VM and say, hey, I would like to bring my own. And then you let the agent scan it for you. So we don't really look you to a specific solution. You can actually modify that as well. Just-in-time access, we talked about it. So this is like, again, it is just an extra hardening feature on your network security groups, whether it's AWS, Azure, or GCP. This is where you can actually enable it for a certain amount of time, specific inbound ports, and then automatic close again. Adaptive network hardening, this is basically take a look at your network security groups, ports in general, and then give you kind of recommendations like you need to disable, enable, and so on. Okay, so it will basically find a spot like the weakness in your network as well, and then you could apply the remediations. File integrity monitoring. So if you have like kind of specific VMs or file servers that you would like to monitor, maybe there is not much changes happening, or maybe the registry, you'd like to monitor the registry and nothing is happening over there. So you can actually onboard it to Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And then if any change is happening over there, you will be notified and you can block that change as well from there. Okay. This list, I would prefer to go to the public documentation. This is the OS, the minimum OS, but you always have to go to the public Microsoft Docs because we constantly improve this. I could talk today and tomorrow will change. So you always have to go from our public docs and take a look at the supported operating system as well. So again, Windows client or Windows server, all of this are actually covered. These are the Defender plans. We will see actually this from the Azure portal. So this is just like, you could even use the specific features. Maybe you don't want to use everything, so you can actually customize those ones. So again, this is the Defender for servers specifically. Okay. And now let's take a 10 minutes break, and then we go back to the the demo. Okay. Any questions before we go to the break first?
It was just a quick one on the file server Just to put the
please.
file server, the previous slide there. So we have a file server in Defender Cloud, and we've onboarded it using the enabling plan 1, and then it's obviously onboarded the server. So how would we monitor the file server within the OS itself? Is it out of the box? It just does it, or do we need to enable something?
Like it's like, is this file server stored on a VM, right?
Yeah, it's a VM within Azure.
Yeah, then you would use the Azure Arc agent to onboard the VM. And then from there, we will detect all of this, like, automatically. Once it's onboarded, we will install, like, the MDE, the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And then we will take a look at everything you have. So then you will be able to see those file servers like on the cloud, and then you can enable this from there. I will show you on the Azure portal.
Yeah, that'd be good. I mean, that's all done. We've onboarded it. It's in Azure. We've enabled the server plan, so it's onboarded, MD is enabled, everything like that. So it's just be interested to know how we can monitor the file access.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. I can show you. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna just go for a 10-minute break, and then we go directly into the Azure portal to see, the rest of the demo. More. It is. All right. What we were talking about, actually. Okay, yeah. Okay, as you can see, so from the Azure portal, we were talking about the workload protection. At first, I just wanted to highlight the file integrity monitoring, since just going back to your question, this is where actually it's coming from. So you need to make sure the plan is also enabled. You might also have that, not that in place. So if we go to the environmental settings here. Okay, one sec. Let me just switch the subscription here. Sorry about this. Just upgrade this one. So this is the plan. So first of all, you have to make sure that it is enabled. So if you go to the Defender for Servers and then click on here, as you can see, you might turn on or off the the plans, so that if you're not using a specific service, or you're not interested, or maybe they are in testing, you don't want to be monitored by Defender for Cloud, so you can actually turn it on or off. And I believe there was also a PowerShell script where even can customize, if you have 15 servers but you don't want to enable it on all of them, you can actually run that PowerShell command and then select a specific servers. If I found it, I will also share it on the summary email as well, that I will be sending with the survey. If I click on change plan here, this is where you can see exactly. So you want to make sure that your file integrity monitoring here is enabled.
That's the bit I'm missing. Yeah, so I've enabled plan 1. I must have missed on plan 2. Yeah, that's what I'm missing.
So that's one thing. The other piece, if we take a look at the documentation here, there are kind of prerequisites. I don't know if you are aware of Azure Monitor data collection rules. So you need to make sure that the AMA agent is enabled. So for sure the Arc agent is enabled, but also the AMA is enabled, so that we will be able to collect the operating system logs, and then we take it from there. So if this goes in play, everything, if you follow this documentation, with the recommendations over there, I think you should be able to view it from here and see the monitored machines and the unmonitored one. And then you can view the changes over there and the files and everything. Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope this has answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Cool. If we go back here to the, let's actually try to view it from the Azure portal as well, from the other subscription. Again, this is just a demo environment that I don't have any access for configuring things, but let's keep crying here. See, like limited permissions. Hey, limited permissions. So if I click on file integrity monitoring, okay, yeah, I can't. So, but you should be able to see it from there. So that's why same thing for the like, again, you need to make sure that it's enabled from the plan. Then do the prerequisites, and then you could leverage the just-in-time access. Again, same thing. If it's not enabled, you could select those ones, and then it will actually take a look at what's going on here and what's happening. And then you could, once you enable it, then you should see another dashboard again that it will show you exactly what like, you know, the ports that it's enabled, or what kind of ports you would like to allow and what kind of other ports you would like to deny. Or maybe you would select a specific port and then click on, let's say, okay, request access. For this one, you would say, okay, I want to open the, this is Windows machine. So if it's Linux, it's SSH. You want to enable the 3389 port, and then what kind of, how many hours, and then it will automatically enable it and then disable it again. Again, you can memorize this configuration. You can add many, as much as you can. You could also add the justification here, like, you know, I want to test RDP. Okay, and then select open ports. Okay, so this is from an admin. If you received an email or something, you could actually, from an admin perspective, you could do that. Again, as you can see here from the protection offering, that VM vulnerability, just-in-time access, adaptive application control, container image scanning, adaptive network hardening, SQL Server vulnerability assessment. This is not only for like, you know, Azure SQL, but also SQL Anywhere. So if you actually see the Azure, I don't want to touch it now, so I will just come to the Azure Arc after the fact. But I just want to show you, this is the availability of the workload protections. The other piece is that you would be also, if you have an Azure firewall, or even the third party, you could see the firewall manager and then manage your rules from there. This is the firewall, is basically where you will use it to control the outbound traffic, the data that's going outside from your network, Azure or others. And then you could actually like, you know, see what's going on here. The virtual network, if you have DDoS solution, you could see everything. Like, you have a dashboard, and then you can add rules, remove rules, and so on. You don't need to go to the firewall policy directly, I mean per firewall, and then like, you know, play with it. You can just do it from here. The other piece here is that you have a cloud security explorer. So the cloud security explorer is basically a log analytics query, but from a graphical user interface. You could actually run a specific query if you're interested in, like, you know, looking to a specific resource, and then like, you know, again, I don't have permissions, but you can, I want to see the virtual machine group that got, like, you know, the specific security issue, and then like, you know, you could search, and then you will see all of the recommendations, the alerts, and all of this kind of stuff. It's very, very handy, and it makes it more simple to search on the attacks or something. So it's very good. The other piece is also, you could go from the recommendations directly here, and then let's enable GitHub. Yeah, it's actually Azure DevOps, but this is what I have. Then we can see for secrets, right? So I can search. Am I writing it right? Secrets. Let me just take a look. Yeah, but you got the idea. Just secrets. You can search, and then you start to take a look at, okay, what's happening from a secret sites, or, like, you know, what's happening from, I don't know, Windows updates, what's happening from, like, you know, anything. So you could actually take a look at what's going on. So the search features also make it very easy for you to, like, you know, to take a look at what's going on as well. But again, this is a category that you could browse and hide and show. So all of this are very cool. The other thing that you could leverage is the workbooks. So workbooks actually is not like a component of Microsoft Defender for Cloud, but this is an Azure Monitor feature. So this is like kind of huge if you would like to do more than a dashboard and collect them together, so you want to see the alerts with the recommendations with this, but you can also use it for other services as well. And then you could see kind of like, okay, like there is a pre-built workbooks, and you can also browse the community, so you can actually browse the gallery on even build your own custom workbooks as well. So run a specific query, and then you could show it in a table view or in a, or like, you know, whatever that you would like to. So if we take any example here, hopefully it works. Yeah. Then you can actually see alert by summary, alert by status, alerts by MITRE attack framework. The coverage, if you would like to see the coverage of the what's happening on your Azure portal, who is on and who is off. So it's very good, like, you know, and even you can pin it to your dashboard. So every time you log in the morning, you can see all of this, what's coming from the endpoint, what's happening. So you can create more than one dashboard and then save it. And this is very interactive. So that's mean is that you could also change and select specific thing, like, you know, here. I just don't want to play with it. You can edit this one. So again, you have also the auto refresh, so it can actually keep refreshing. So it's not like a snapshot. It actually keep checking the log analytics and then generate that for you. So it's running like, you know, query or cost to query on the log analytics workspace itself. Community, again, if you would like to learn about something, so you just go ahead from here. There is a lot of webinars, like security webinars talking about Defender for Cloud. So I would highly recommend to go through this, but also the community in general, what they are doing for Logic apps, what they are doing for all of this kind of stuff. So you can actually follow that ones, and then you're gonna really learn a lot. So you could see here, this is the community forum, the community blog, and you can see the webinar videos as well. So it's very good for education. Okay. Going back here to the environmental settings, you can pretty much customize, like, you know, the pay. So let's say AWS, for example, I could really take a look at what like what is free and what is actually billable. And you can see here, this is the tier and also the settings. Do you want to enable agent or agentless scanning? Azure Arc agent is pushed or not? So the more you push agents, the more you're going to get more features. So we will talk about Azure Arc in the upcoming now minutes, but like pretty much is like you can control what's happening and what's going on, what's enabled partially and what's not enabled. So you will see here, like, you know, if you want to enable agentless scanning, then you can actually enable it from here. If you want to disable the deprecated log analytics and you switch from to AMA, you can actually do that as well. Okay. Same for controlling the containers, but you will also know exactly what do we cover, what do we check from AWS perspective. So database containers, like we health check the Amazon S3 bucket and so on. So all of this kind of stuff are actually covered. Yeah, if you would like to bring your own third-party solutions, you can do that as well. The workflow automation, this is where it's coming from the logic apps, like, you know, the security logic apps. You could add and then call it from there. So you first you have to enable it, and then once it's enabled, then you can call it from here, and then it will trigger that logic app. So let's say you have a specific alert that you would like to remediate. After you investigate, you just can call that logic apps, but always understand the impact first. So do it manually. Once you understand, then you could actually use the logic apps for that, so that you don't block something or do something as well. One thing I forgot just to mention is that if you would like to exempt the resources, let's say we are telling you, okay, hey, install Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, and you are using third-party application. So you can actually go ahead on any recommendations that you have, and then you can click on exempt here. When you click on exempt, you can actually bypass bypass this security health check. So you could actually set an expiration date, and then you could say waiver, its risk is accepted. Then you can type whatever for other admins to see, and then we will bypass that from the secure score and the recommendations as well. So in case if you're using third parties, or maybe this recommendation is not relevant to you, so you don't care about it, you're using a public website, so this is a public website, so risk is accepted, okay, or mitigated by third party. So this is the category that you can use, okay. Azure Arc. Anyone I know except Harry knows Azure Arc. Anyone doesn't know what is Azure Arc? You can just raise your hand. Are you using Azure Arc? Chris, okay, perfect. So Azure Arc is basically it's a free service from Microsoft that we offer, and what it does is basically connect the non-Azure resources to Azure. So it is like anything that if you would like to use the cool features from Azure and the Azure Resource Manager and so on, basically you have to blend or you have to use Azure Arc. So we see it commonly in some of the Middle Eastern country where they can't move the data right now, so they would like to leverage the AI features, the discount that Microsoft also offers. So when you connect your on-premises infrastructure, whether it is SQL Server or Windows, you get also a free, like a discount on the extended security updates. So you could also leverage the discount as well. Plus, you connect Azure to your infrastructure to Azure. Once it's connected, then you could use Azure Automation. You can manage the updates, both Windows and Linux. You could use Microsoft Defender for Cloud and then do the security best practice. You could push Azure policies and many more. Some of it are free capabilities and some of it are paid options, though it depends on the service type that you're going to use. But in general, connecting those, like it's a hybrid tool. So it's connecting the infrastructure is actually for free. And you will get also a discounted security updates as well. But this is not a topic for today. But I just want to highlight, like basically, like it's connecting your non-Azure sources, whether they are coming from on-prem or AWS or GCP, to Azure, and then we will see it as an Azure resource. Then you can pretty much integrate all of the services that we support today with the non-Azure resources as well. So this is the flow where you need to enable the P1 or P2 plan, like that we have seen from the Azure portal, then start to push the Azure Arc agent on your virtual machines. And then once it's pushed, then you can install the other endpoints if you would like to, like the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint or the AMA agent and so on. And then once it's provisioned, we will see them as an Azure resource on the Azure portal, and we will see that on that demo as well. Azure Arc is multi-cloud on-prem. So again, it's all about connecting the Azure control plane, which is the Azure Resource Manager, to the non-Azure resources. Then once we see that over Azure, then you would be able to deal with them, whether they are Kubernetes, unmanaged Kubernetes, whether it's your System Center VMM. So you can actually onboard the whole System Center VMM or your VMware vCenter infrastructure. You can connect it, and then you could RDP into those machines. You could stop start. You could do a lot of things. You could manage the updates, as I mentioned, and many more. All right. So before we go to the protect your container, just let's quickly take a look at the Azure Arc, and then go back again to continue the topics. So Azure Arc is basically, there are kind of prerequisites, not like kind of straightforward. So you have to create like some kind of application ID that you need to create and from the Azure AD and enable it. Once it's enabled, then you can onboard your machines. So basically from here, you click on the machines section, and then you can click on add a machine. Then you could add through the many different way. Either it's a standalone. So if you would like to onboard your just copy that script and then install it from PowerShell directly on the machine, it will install. Or you could add multiple servers through SCM if you have, or whatever. So you could actually generate that, add multiple servers. We will ask you like any Azure source, which Azure subscription you would like to onboard. Let me just bring the other Azure. Sorry about this. So basically, you will click here and then add a machine, and then generate the script. Select the Azure subscription. Select a resource group. Which region do you want to? Let's select UK. And what type of operating system, which virtual machine you want to onboard. And then once you select how do you want to design the connectivity, is it going to be public endpoint. Like, normally it's outbound connection coming from your VM to Azure. So we don't require any inbound roles to be opened. But either you could connect this over the public endpoint or through a proxy or even private endpoint through your VPN or express route circuit as well. And then you need to create a service principal. So once this is created, then we give you a script where you could download and then install it via PowerShell. So again, this is like a one-to-one relationship, or even either through the configuration manager or group policy, or even through Ansible. The other part is if you are using Azure Update Management already and you're connecting your resources with the AMA agent from the Azure automation, you can actually add it very simple here. So you just kind of click here and then select your resource groups, which region is, and then we will ask you where is the Azure, where is the servers. So you can select the Azure automation account, and then once it's selected, you could select your virtual machines and then install directly, and then it will push the Arc agent, and then they will be onboarded. Once they are onboarded, the machine is gonna look like this. Let me go back here. So it will appear like any Azure resource. So whether it's on-prem or maybe Amazon EC2 machine, so the state is connected, it is Amazon Linux, you can see here from the operating system, and then you can click on that. You can actually SSH on that one, so you can connect to it. You can see the security recommendations from Microsoft Defender for Cloud per resource. You can install extensions like automation and so on. You can run command. You can, if it's a SQL database, then you can see the SQL best practices as well. Like, if there is a specific login is not configured, like, you have privileges, you have certain updates is not installed, whatever, like, there's a lot of SQL stuff that we give to you over here. If you would like to manage the updates, so if you are stuck with, like, let's say you don't have an update solution over AWS or even on-prem, you can actually leverage the Azure Update Management, and then you can manage the Windows and Linux updates as well. Many more, but this is the potential. So you can see this has become an Azure resource. And then once we see that, as if you have any Azure virtual machine, so you can actually blend the other security features. The other thing is that if you have Azure Stack HCI, you can also onboard that. This is actually new. If you have unmanaged Kubernetes cluster or managed from Google, you can actually onboard it here. VMware and vCenter, so you can actually do that. So once it's onboarded, you can see the virtual machines, you can start, stop. Again, this is still under development, but see where is the potential, so you can actually manage your whole vCenter from here as well. So this is very, very cool. Any questions to Arc? You guys are quiet today, so feel free to unmute and talk, so we're not like the... Okay, perfect. Is it complicated how it sounds? Like, is it good, okay, good, bad? Like, I just want to hear from you as well. All good?
Yeah, so it's all clear so far.
I know it's Friday, but like... All right, so the other thing that we will talk about is containers. So containers is basically adopted by a lot of organizations, and you see here from the studies that there is, like, a lot of use containers in production. One of the biggest challenges of, in general, microservices architecture and so on is the cybersecurity. So visibility of the container traffic flows are difficult to track. So this is where also the Azure, the Defender for Cloud is gonna provide you with a lot of stuff. Same as you've seen on any other resource, from hardening to, like, vulnerability management and, like, all of the threat capabilities. You will have the same experience, the same interface. So you just need to investigate it. Like, you need to enable it. It's agentless, so across all of the infrastructure, like across of all of the cloud providers. And we just check the control plane of the Kubernetes or the the Azure container instance or your container registry and so on, and then we give you kind of a lot of rich information. So whether it's a vulnerability, whether it's from the code itself, so all of this kind of stuff are actually managed for you. So it's a single pane of glass. So it handles the discovery of your microservices infrastructure, your registries that is connected to it, starting from the code that you're writing, the whole control plane. So all of this kind of stuff across all of the cloud providers and your on-premises infrastructure through the Azure Arc. You can actually also onboard your unmanaged Kubernetes infrastructure, and then you can leverage the security best practice that you would like to use with or to blend with Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Easy onboarding at scale, very simple to manage, and we will see that as well on the demo. So you will see the same interface. Vulnerability management, if there is something related to the container images itself before it runs, or even while it's running on the AKS cluster, we will actually also give you kind of recommendations on what kind of vulnerability that we have seen. And then you will see like information, and then like any other resource, you can actually take a look at the let me just open the pointer here. Take a look at the remediation steps, understand the information about the vulnerability, and then out of the box, either you trigger a logic app from here or manually go and remediate that yourself. Okay. Hardening, same thing. So whether it's from the Kubernetes itself again, or from the image, or again the clusters, all of this, we're gonna give you kind of secure score. We're gonna give you kind of an overview of what's going on, what's happening. So all of this kind of stuff are coming also from the Kubernetes infrastructure once you enable it. Advanced threat protection, same interface again. What kind of attack is happening, starting from the the account to maybe it is on the container itself, and then something happening on the container registry. So all of this kind of stuff, the attack path and so on, you will see it as well. So same as the VMs or any other resource. And then out of the box, we will give you kind of actions to that you need to perform. If there is any kind of container image upgrade or something, we will also security. I mean, from a security perspective, or maybe there are passwords inside the containers that are used. We're also gonna flag it as a security risk, and we'll give you the location as well. So where is actually the secrets are stored, whether it's a VM, whether it's a container, and so on. Finally, protecting your database. So before I just want to see, let's cover just protecting the database, and then we can just do the full demo, and then we wrap up from there, get any questions so far and so on. Okay. Protecting the database, again, like today, same as what you see, like from the same native tool, from the same interface, we cover a lot of variety of database, plus we integrate with Microsoft PureView. Anyone heard of Microsoft PureView? Or Microsoft Information Protection, for example? Okay.
Yep.
So before it was PureView, you could use the sensitive information. You could actually, this is an M365 product. Let me just show you the capability. One of its capabilities is that you could really control the sensitivity here. So you could design your labels, and then once you added any credit card information on the data, it's actually take a look and scan the Office documents, scan your your Exchange server, your emails, like your Outlook and so on. It scans SharePoint online, on-prem, and so on. But plus we extended the capabilities of it scans the database itself, so it take a look at any sensitive information and make sure it doesn't leak outside of your organization. So if somebody mistakenly send an email, we make sure that it's not going to be viewed by others through the Azure Active Directory. So let's say for Word, for example, let's say you are applying Microsoft only. Okay, so I have some labels here. If I added like Microsoft FTE only, okay, and somebody took this document outside, took it by a OneDrive, or maybe copy it through their flash disk or whatever. How would we make sure that this document is not going to be opened by anyone? Because you need to sign in here. So if you're not signed in here, you will not get the encryption certificate where it decrypt the content. So actually there is an encryption happens on the on the file level, and it travels with the document whenever it goes. And then in order to be able to open it, you have to sign in. And then this is where we bootstrap with Azure Active Directory. And then you get the permissions. Basically, you get the certificate where you have like read-only access, or you have print access or not. So all of this kind of stuff is actually managed from the Azure Active Directory. Same thing. The Defender for Cloud integrate with PureView, integrate with, like, you know, like if you're having PureView enabled and you design your labels and everything, and it's checking your SQL Server database, we can actually take a look at what's content over there. Is there any credit card information and so on? And then we recommend a specific labels, and you can see it from Microsoft Defender for Cloud as well. I hope this is clear. So if it's not, please just raise your hand and let me know. Cool. Defender for Cloud. This is the coverage today, but again, I would recommend to go for the public docs to see what else. As I mentioned, announced in Ignite is that also RDS, Amazon RDS is also covered. With one click, you can actually enable whether it's databases, whether it's your storage and the containers, key vaults, and so on. The common attacks that we, or the threats that we see from there, this is just some of the examples, is SQL injections, brute force attack, unusual data, and so on, and suspicious access or queries that's happening on there, plus the classification, the data classification that we does as well. So we could see it from the application level to the database level. All of this kind of stuff is actually available to you as well. If there's an attack, we will be able to protect you from that, plus also give you kind of vulnerability management. If there any vulnerable thing, like let's say you're using Azure App Services and you're accessing the website over HTTP. This is a security risk. So we would recommend to use certificate, hey, enable HTTPS, all of this kind of stuff. So this is just such as an example. Again, this is the kind of the tactics that we look for. So we will see this from the Azure portal, but potential SQL injection, vulnerability, and so on, access from unusual location, or potential brute force attack, and so on and so forth. Finally, Azure Storage, Amazon S3 bucket, like Google, I don't know the Google one, but the Google Storage as well is also covered. So if there's also unusual activities happening on those storages as well, we will also flag it as a security risk, and we will be able to see it if the attack is happening on storage account or happening on a SQL database or whatever the like, you know, the or file shares and so on that is might be configured on the Azure storage itself. You will be able to see it from there as well. Finally, the control plane itself. So Azure Resource Manager, your DNS, your key vault, all of this are also covered. This is came as a new features as well from Defender for Cloud. So it's really powerful product. And again, you have 30 days trial to try that one as well. And there are some of the features that are actually coming free. So you could, why not you don't enable it and leverage that, even if you don't have the budget to use that at like, you know, at the moment, or maybe you're having other security solutions that you're leveraging, you could also use the recommendation or the free features from that Defender for Cloud as well. Let's take a look. Yeah, okay, perfect. Time is perfect. Okay, so if we take a look here, you will see the data security that I was talking about here, whether you are connected to different cloud providers. You will see the, like, again, if you enable the pure view, then you will be able to see the what kind of sensitive information is stored over there. And then you could see the available attack path as well. But you will see here that it's giving you kind of, I see credit card information. Let me zoom in a little bit. EU debit card, international. So this is kind of the type of sensitive information that you will see. You can also manage the data sensitivity settings. So if you click here, you can actually see what, like, how many data, like, sensitive info has been discovered, and then you could apply labels. So again, the labels itself is controlled from the M365 portal. This is where it links to a specific policy and a specific permissions. But here, this is where you can change and manipulate the actual label. So you could say, okay, no, this is actually not confidential. This is general. So you could actually go ahead and change that label and then apply it on the database as well. The data queries, if there is any data queries happening, you can actually also have a look, but this is basically your data security. So this is covering the storage and the database, whether they are coming from Azure or AWS or on-premises infrastructure as well. Any questions? Okay. The DevOps. So the DevOps, you can pretty much, as of today, we started with Azure DevOps. And then we brought GitHub and GitLab. So this is what you can onboard today. And then this is where you could find the weakness of your repositories as well. So developers sometimes doesn't follow or all the time doesn't follow the best practice. So you could actually take a look at what's going on, what's happening over here. So you could drill per the specific repository, or you can just open the recommendation section and see what's going on here. And then it will start to give you kind of what kind of vulnerabilities is happening here. So for example, severity, same interface, which repository, and then you could actually take a look at what's going on here. GitHub repositories should have secret scanning finding resolved. So if you're not enabled this, we will also flag it as a security risk. And then we could show you also the attack path. So you could go ahead and go from the attack path, take a look at, okay, what could be the potential problem if you're not using Key Vault, for example, to store your secrets and all of this, and you're storing this directly into GitHub. This is also a security risk. And then you could browse and take a look at what's going on, and then out of the box give you the the recommendations as well. Some of it I don't have permissions, that's why I don't have everything I can show you, but we could give you the actions, what's the steps, and if you would like to exempt, so you can do that as well from here, or you could trigger a logic app for automation. Graph, again, this is the path. If you would like to see the whole path, you could see it from there if it's available as well. Again, this is the filters. So scope normally is to which level do you want to see the recommendations. You could select only Azure subscriptions. You could only select GCP and so on. So it's totally up to you. Any questions? Perfect. Okay, let's try to find some GitHub stuff actually. So I hope I can find that. I don't think I won't be able to do that. Okay, but generally speaking, you can filter. You can just take a look at the resource, either it's a storage or whatever. Also, if you want to see it from a storage from a resource view, you always have to go from the inventory section. So the inventory section, it could filter all resources. We can actually filter. Let's say, yeah, let's find containers here. GCP compute instance, and maybe let's filter by. Where is the containers? Yeah, container instances. Okay, you can take a look here what's going on. Like, if there's an attack path, if there is something that's not onboarded. So you will see actually the related information here. Like, see that GCP VM instance should have OS config agent installed, or Arc should be onboarded. So you could see the recommendation. Maybe there is a public IP. So you could actually click here, oh, okay, that there is a public IP on my GCP compute instances, and then you could see the remediation steps. So it's very, very cool. If you would like to take an action, then you can take an action, whether trigger a logic app or even click on take an action. And then if it's native, some of it, like it's actually built in automatic remediation. Some of it you have to trigger the logic apps as well. Okay, if there's any related alerts, it will be there. Finally, to disable or enable specific things, so you always have to rely on the environmental settings. And then this is where you could onboard, add an AWS environment, and then from there you could add your AWS ID. Like again, if you go to the public documentation, there are certain stuff that you need to follow, from IAM role perspective, stuff like that. And then once it's done, then you can select the plan, and then once it's done, then you will see it's onboarded, and then you will start to get recommendations. If you want to do direct onboarding, you can do that as well. Data sensitivity, same thing. So it's all controlled from here. The other piece, let me just try to see if they didn't move it as well. Just 1 second. I'll just stick here. I just want to make sure. Any questions while I'm just looking here? Please feel free to come off mute and tell me. Okay, I think I can use the other portal. As you can see here, if you go to the Defender plans, this is where you could enable and disable the the features. Do I want to use container health check or not? Do I want to use the key vault, the resource manager? Again, the more we introduce new services, the more that you will see it here. If you would like to receive some email notifications, you could actually select, I want the owners only, or specific people to be, and then you could add the email address and see the algorithm here followed by separate commas. So I want to be notified only for high severity. So you could also leverage that as well. Controlling workflow automation, we have seen that before, so I won't repeat again. These are the security policies. So behind the scene, the magic here is also very good. Like Microsoft designed, or the way it checked the compliance and different things from the control plane is actually coming from the Azure policy. So the Azure policy take a look at everything, and there are pre-built compliance where, hey, go and take a look at the network security group ports. Go and take a look at this and this. So one of its guides that use is actually the policies. So if you go to the Azure policies here, you will see that there is kind of definitions, and then we can take a look at the policies. Oh, security. I hope see, even they are using the old name, Security Center. You will see here, this is where we get the recommendations and all of this kind of stuff. Configure Azure SQL, you can see. This is where it's coming from. Configure Microsoft Defender for cloud plans, So this is the recommendation that's coming from. Some of it are actually coming from the Defender for cloud policies. That this is the pre-built from Microsoft policies as well. Anyone is not aware of the Azure policies? Feel free to ask questions. Yeah. Okay, with that, I will give you some time back. We actually finished early.